So when I give a homework assignment out, I'm providing intentional focus. And so when I say, go home and paint a bag of potato chips, I'm giving you an intentional focus. It's up to you to generate that awe and wonder or that inspiration in that process. And oftentimes my homework assignments are futile. It's like, they're so off the beaten path that you think, I don't want to do that. And then you're knocked down possibility right there. You just go, no, I'm not going to do it, not interested. What am I going to do with it afterwards? And then some of you go, okay, you've thrown down the gauntlet, let me see what I can do with it. And this week we're talking about putting in a candle into a seasonal thing. And, when we look at a candle, it's fascinating. It's beautiful. And when I talk about this homework assignment, I remember back when I was at Stanford, and there was a work of art that was in the museum there. And I think I talked about it. It was a lab. Did I talk to you about that? It was a science project thing lit up. Anyway, so here I'm at Stanford, and younger, 20-something, 19. And I'm wandering around the gallery, and there's this one piece that's of a science hall. And it's an etching. And I'm a painter, so etchings, I know of them, I've done them, but they're not on my radar. But yet, after so many years, when I give you the homework assignment, I'm still motivated by what I saw. And what I saw was so incredible that it's still with me. I can almost draw it for you. It's that real for me after this many years. And really great art does that. If you really create something really fabulous, it really sticks with the viewer forever. That's the ultimate gift. It's like having one of those music worms in your head, that melody that keeps sticking with you that you can't get rid of. I can't shake this. So when I was giving you the homework assignment, I'm thinking about this thing. And it was a big etching, which normally etchings are not. Normally etchings are much smaller, but this is a big one, done at the turn of the century. And it was of a science hall, science table, where obviously there was filled with all kinds of jars with liquids in them and things that you had no idea what they were inside of them, all stacked up on top of each other in a dark room that was lit by a Bunsen burner, because that's what you would have in a science thing. But it was hidden behind everything so that you couldn't see it. But you knew it was a Bunsen burner because the effects of light didn't suggest that it was a candle. You could see reflections of the base of the Bunsen burner in some of the glass. I mean, it was so well done that this illuminating light through all this gelatin and all this thing in a dark room was so mindfully, beautifully executed that to this day I can actually recall it. That's taking ordinary and making it extraordinary. And it took hours and hours and hours of somebody standing there looking at this, because you couldn't photograph it with what they had back then to do that. They had to be physically in front of it. And they had to be more fascinated with, when you think about a subject matter being science goo inside of, body parts and animal things and stuff, and floating in jars that are lit with gelatins and things that causes the light to kind of look weird, and every bottle had a different color, but yet it was all black and white. He had to sit and really figure out all of this and be really intentional about creating this. And he couldn't have been thinking about, when I finish this, thousands of people are going to want this science project on their living room wall so they could share with their friends. It's like, no, he did it because he was more curious about the project than he was about the outcome. And that's what you have to have, is that curiosity. It's like when you sit, for those of you that did the assignment, you're looking at the candle, you've got to be curious to ask yourself, what does it take to paint a flame? What is it that I actually look like? And I've had this same issue. I would sit there and I go, well, flames are hot. So obviously I'm looking at cadmium yellow deep or cadmium yellow medium. It must be that. So my brain is telling me that. And it's going into darkness. And what we know about darkness is that it's blue, right? So I remember painting blue backgrounds and cadmium yellow, and it never could get the effect of light. And then I was looking really closely at it, and I stopped thinking about what I thought I was seeing. And this is why the homework assignments are really valuable. Because even though they're kind of trite and kind of, it does have you stop for a second and go, what is it that I'm actually looking at? And how can I make that out of paint? Because it's an illusion, There must be a way of doing that because other artists do that. But it's an illusion, it's not real. If you put it down, a candlestick down on the floor, that's on a painting, dog's not going to think it's a candle burning. He's going to see a piece of cardboard with paint on it. It's not real. But we look at it and we think, candle, it's got to be three-dimensional. So it's an illusion that we're creating. What is it that we actually see? And there's where the homework assignment lies. It's to have you sit there and go, no, it's not warm, even though it feels warm. It's more cool. It's more whitish. But look, it transitions into a warm color. Or is it really warm? Is it cad yellow light or cad yellow medium? And how far does it go out from there? Remember, if you've got sfumatsu, which is the Italian word for air or smoke, you know that the candle is illuminating air. And how does that air go into darkness? And a lot of you painted this painting in dark, wondering how you're going to paint that sitting in the dark, trying to paint a lit candle. And there within lies the secret to learning the strengths of your work that you do, by sitting there looking at it over and over and over again. The outcome may suck. For most of you, it will fail. That doesn't matter. What matters is that you spent an hour studying something and trying to come to a conclusion. And sometimes you don't get a conclusion right then. But at some point, you might decide to do a painting of a tent at night with a campfire. And you can go, when I did the candle thing, I thought it was all cadmium yellow deep, but I was wrong. So when you do this campfire, you go, maybe I'll try cad yellow light or lemon yellow. And maybe I'll make the fire cool instead of warm. How would that work? And all of a sudden now, from doing the seasonal candle in a painting that has no purpose, now becomes like a major focal point for a campfire outside of a tent. It's really interesting how things come back. And so, even when we did the potato chip painting, there are effects that you learn in that process that you can use later. When we did the foil, it teaches you to look at foil and ask yourself, what does that look like? Because we have an idea, but our ideas are always wrong. Our ideas are always wrong. What we think we see isn't what we see. Our brain has a lot to do with that. Our brain is actually the worst thing we have to work as artists. Our eyes are what's important, and our reaction, our hand coordination is important. The brain, especially the brain that you used to have, has no business in the life of being an artist because it's all lies. You've been telling yourself lies all the time. You've been telling yourself that campfires are hot because the flame is hot when you touch it. But that's a lie. It's cold. I know it doesn't make sense, but it does. Foil should be gray, right? Maybe it's not. It's reflective of all the other colors. I can't tell you how many people who did the foil project started off painting gray everywhere, and I'm like going, where do you see gray? The foil isn't gray, unless you have gray foil. You have red foil, gray foil, but it's a reflective object. It's reflecting everything. It's like a mirror. Some of the other projects that we have, the colors that you think you see are not really there. So the homework assignments are for you to practice looking. And that looking like transparent glass. I can't tell you how many people come to class saying, how do you paint a glass of wine so you could see through it? And I go, what color is the glass? And they say transparent. And I go, yeah, but there's yellow transparent, red transparent, you know, which one do you want to learn? Well, they obviously want to do the clear one. But what happens is if you do a wine glass and you have a yellow one, right? The secret to painting is painting what you see and practicing what you see and shutting off what you think you know and observing your model to your best ability. It's the same thing when people do portraits. They think that the head and the thing's round, so you end up with this big orange-like puffy thing. And when in essence, our face is made up of planes. When we're looking at oranges and apples, they're planes. They're actual planes. The outside of what we think is round actually is a series of straight lines. And when you start pointing those out, you go, yeah, round isn't necessarily round, and it doesn't have an edge either. Objects have no edge to them that are round. Okay? Having an edge would make them feel unnatural.